From CBS News Bay Area, this is the Evening Edition.
Now at 6, Congress clashes over the U.S. intervention in Venezuela and the capture of former President Maduro.
But they're going to wake up tomorrow morning knowing, my God, there is no plan here.
This was an excellent operation. Only the United States military could have pulled it off.
The latest ahead of his arraignment tomorrow.
Plus, neighborhoods in the North Bay face a fourth straight day of king tides.
Oh, look at this. This door got just destroyed.
Oh my God. A look at the Corte Madera with the latest on the damage.
And later, a Sunday surprise for those folks who were parking in Oakland today.
They're trying to find so many ways to raise money. I think we should look at saving money rather than raising.
Why Oakland dropped free parking on Sundays and where that money is going to. Live from the CBS studios in San Francisco this Sunday evening, I'm Brian Hack.
And I'm Andrea Nakano. King tides and heavy rain once again flooding low-lying areas across the Bay Area. This is a look at FEMA's flood hazard zones, and the areas in blue show the areas that are prone to flooding.
And for the fourth straight day, Marin County is getting the worst of it. This is where we're seeing some of the worst flooding today.
And we saw people out there wading in the water, some even breaking out paddle boards to get around. Dahlin was in Larkspur and Corte Madera today. He heard from businesses and homeowners alike who are dealing with the headache.
Just after 11 o'clock Sunday morning, Corte Madera Creek filled up and spilled over its banks. All that water rushing into the Larkspur Marina neighborhood. By noon, roughly half of the neighborhood streets were underwater. And that's where we found Colette Tanaka trying to keep water out of her home of 23 years.
We're trying to keep as dry as possible. You know, every sump pump, every sandbag. But this is just kind of normal for this area. But it's just this is really much worse than we've ever seen.
Like most houses in the Larkspur Marina neighborhood, Colette's house is raised up a couple of feet from the ground. So the house is dry. It's her garage that's underwater.
I've got the contractors coming tomorrow to see if we have to redo the concrete on the floor or tear stuff out.
Parts of Rivera Circle were under knee-deep water. The best way to get around is in a high-profile vehicle. So I hitched a ride with Grant Grobecker, who's checking on his house to make sure his two brothers and parents are safe.
Yeah, so this is my house right here. And
okay.
I mean, you can see the right corner is just barely being touched by the water. And then front door-wise, there's no water on my front door, so I'd say my house is definitely doing better than a lot of these other houses.
Yeah. Floodwaters got into a lot of garages in the neighborhood. But since this is day number 4 of king tides, many families have already moved valuable items to higher ground. It's the heavier appliances like washers and dryers that they're worried about.
Oh, look at this. This door got just destroyed.
It's Mother Nature. It's just, we just do what we can.
Just a few blocks away in Corte Madera, businesses like Big 5 Sporting Goods and Fitness SF have had to close due to flooding and impassable roads.
We've been at this location for 35 years and we've never seen it this bad. There has been flooding here at Lucky Drive, but not like this.
Sebastian Jakovics is the co-owner of Fitness SF. The gym has been closed since Friday afternoon. They're trying to keep the water out and clean up the gym so they can reopen hopefully by Monday afternoon.
There were some electronics that got damaged in offices and things that just caught us by surprise. The gym itself has a couple inches of water in it in certain areas, but we were able to defend the gym pretty well because we were sandbagged up and we had pumps going.
All the businesses and neighbors say Saturday was the worst day for flooding, with water levels a little lower on Sunday.
Yesterday, the water was all the way up to the top of my boot in this yard. So it was probably almost 12 inches. You could not see any grass. Nope.
I asked Colette if she sees a future here, even though she loves her neighbors. It's a maybe, at least for now.
Talk to me next year. We got a date.
The neighbors and businesses are watching the forecast closely because they don't want to clean up if the king tides will return on Monday. They can't really assess the damage or begin cleaning up until this is all over. There's a sense of fatigue after days of flooding here.
Thank you, Dahl. We also saw flooding in the East Bay. In Concord, cars were slowly coming and going in this parking lot despite being inches deep in water. It looks like the storm drains there just couldn't keep up with the rain.
And a similar story in Pittsburgh. this mostly empty parking lot turned into a lake. Signs were put up to warn against the flooded areas, at least to warn against going into them. And Darren's here for a quick look at what's ahead. Darren?
Well, actually, just a quick explanation for what's going on here. The images of 101 flooded going through Marin yesterday and that neighborhood. Larkspur Marina, when you see that many homes with water, it can be a bit jarring. And just a quick explanation for why those places are particularly vulnerable on days like today. We've done a lot of explanation over the last 2 days of this story about the king tides and about the high surf. So I just want to take a moment and drill down to the details on which parts of the bay are particularly vulnerable when we see water level get about 2 feet above where would be typical. The map here shows you areas in blue that we know are low enough to be vulnerable to flooding when the tide gets particularly high. Here's Corte Madera. Look at this stretch of the bay right here. That's actually a marsh, a purposeful marsh, which is a barrier here. It's also a state recreation area, but it tells you this is very low. You don't have marshy areas like this unless you were pretty much right at the level of the bay. That's where Larkspur Marina is. Take a look at the way this is set up. That's Corte Madera Creek, which comes in. You're pretty much right at sea level here. The map put together here by an organization to help us track where the vulnerability is for flooding is showing you the locations here that can see water inundate them when we get a king tide surge, which is exactly where we are. Look at that neighborhood. That entire community was built on fill right along Corte Madera Creek here, which is at the same level of the bay. Hopefully that just lends a little bit of context to why that one neighborhood got hit so hard. What happens next? Well, here's the peak in the tide surge over the last 2 days. That line shows you where we are now. This is what's coming next. We still have a flood advisory till 3 o'clock in the afternoon tomorrow. We've got to get through this one. It's not as bad as today, but it's close. So let's get through tomorrow, and then we will see an improvement on this. I'll be back with the rest of the forecast. We'll talk about the rain in just a few minutes. For now, guys, back to you.
All right, thank you so much, Darren. CHP is advising drivers to slow down on the roads to avoid crashes like this one. CHP says a Tesla slammed into one of their patrol cars while at the scene of another crash on Interstate 680. This happened near the South Mission Boulevard exit in Fremont. No one was hurt. Well, other parts of the Bay Area also getting a good downpour today, and this is what it looked like in downtown San Francisco. Not a lot of people out there on this Sunday. A similar scene in Concord with rain coming down there as well.
Former Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro and his wife will face a federal judge in New York tomorrow. Right now, they're being held at a detention center in Brooklyn ahead of their expected arraignment. They're facing charges related to drug trafficking and narco-terrorism. This all comes a day after the U.S. military captured the former leader during an operation in Venezuela's capital. The move sparked mixed reactions on Capitol Hill, with House Democrats condemning the attack and holding an emergency caucus meeting this afternoon. On Face the Nation, Representative Jim Himes questioned the operation's legality.
I've had zero outreach, and no Democrat that I'm aware of has had any outreach whatsoever. So apparently we're now in a world where the legal obligation to keep the Congress informed only applies to your party, which is really something.
Meanwhile, Republicans are backing President Trump and praising the operation. Senate Intelligence Chair Tom Cotton said that he's hopeful about Venezuela's future.
As President Trump said, this was an excellent operation. Only the United States military could have pulled it off. Venezuela has a long history of stable, orderly government that was friendly to the United States. We are their #1 customer for oil, and we work together to help build prosperity and stability in our own backyard. I hope that we can do that again.
Sources tell CBS News that Trump administration officials will brief select members of Congress tomorrow night. The military operation in Venezuela followed a months-long campaign by the Trump administration to remove Maduro. It involved more than 150 aircraft launched from 20 bases across the Western Hemisphere. CBS reporter Charlie Daggett has got the details.
In the early hours of Saturday morning, a swarm of U.S. military helicopters, special forces units known as the Night Stalkers, descended on Caracas, and explosions lit up the sky, signaling that Operation Absolute Resolve was underway.
It was a force against a heavily fortified military fortress in the heart of Caracas to bring outlaw dictator Nicolas Maduro to justice.
President Trump and his team watched the mission unfold from his Mar-a-Lago home as soldiers of the Army's elite Delta Force dropped in and breached Maduro's compound just after 2 a.m. local time.
He was trying to get into a safe place. You know, the safe place is all steel. And he wasn't able to make it to the door because our guys were so fast.
Officials tell CBS News that a CIA source inside the Maduro government had tracked the dictator's movements for months.
Where he lived, where he traveled, what he ate, what he wore, what were his pets.
Within 2.5 hours of U.S. forces touching down, Maduro and his wife were at sea. The president posting this image of a handcuffed and blindfolded Maduro aboard the USS Iwo Jima. One of the U.S. helicopters was hit and some U.S. soldiers were injured in the raid.
On arrival into the target area, the helicopters came under fire, and they replied with that fire with overwhelming force in self-defense. One of our aircraft was hit.
Horrible. At least 5 strategic targets were hit, including military bases and the country's main port. Pentagon officials say that this mission was months in the making. Commandos actually built a replica of the Maduro compound in order to rehearse, and we're told more than 150 aircraft in all took part.
Now, here in the Bay Area, we're seeing pushback against the attack on Venezuela. In Oakland, protests continued for a second day, with dozens rallying to voice their opposition. This is a look at Fruitvale Plaza, where protesters braved the rain, holding signs urging President Trump to avoid war with Venezuela.
It's a great show of solidarity, and I think it speaks to kind of heightening kind of political consciousness in a time, obviously, where Trump is president. It's not his first presidency. We know how much damage he's capable of, and I think that right now we're seeing a really sort of powerful and broad unity across movements in different communities to oppose Trump's agenda.
This weekend, protests erupted around the world, with hundreds rallying from Colombia to Spain to India.
And in San Francisco, more protests over another unpopular regime, this one in Iran. Demonstrators hope that President Trump's actions against Venezuela is a preview of what could happen in their country.
Definitely is bringing us a lot of hopes. So if they could achieve their goals, we can do it too. So this is the time that we want to overthrow the government of Iran.
There has been unrest over economic conditions from the Iranian regime, which have had deadly consequences. At least 8 people have been killed recently. Activists tell us that they were out today in support of those protesting in Iran. We also asked demonstrators about President Trump's threat to intervene if the regime continues to kill peaceful protesters.
We are really happy that President Trump is supporting Iranian people. He just sent a message 2 days ago to Islamic Republic that if they start fire toward the protesters, United States will support Iranian people. And we are very happy and appreciative for this message.
For their part, the Iranian regime is condemning the military action in Venezuela. Iran says it was a clear violation of the fundamental principles of the United Nations Charter. Andrea?
Of frustration, calls to cut ties with PG&E are growing louder after a series of blackouts last month left a lot of people in San Francisco in the dark. Now that fight is once again being brought up in Sacramento. Max Darrow explains.
The idea is not new, but Christmas weekend 2025 brought new life to the idea of a San Francisco and PG&E divorce.
It is time to end San Francisco's relationship with PG&E and to have our own public utility.
State Senator and congressional candidate Scott Wiener proposed the idea in 2020. The bill never made it to a hearing, but he says he's planning to put forward new legislation that would allow for cities to break away from PG&E and form their own publicly owned utilities.
I don't want to sugarcoat it. It's going to be a huge fight to make PG&E publicly owned in San Francisco, but it's a fight that's worth having. Palo Alto has its own public utility. Sacramento has its own public utility. There are public utilities in the North Bay.
Although PG&E isn't the sole provider of gas and electricity in San Francisco, it manages the local distribution grid.
In terms of the city of San Francisco being able to create a true public utility and purchasing PG&E's assets to do that, that has been tough. PG&E has been fighting that for decades.
This system is not working. We need to change the system.
Gubernatorial candidate Tom Steyer also says the blackout is an example of why the status quo isn't sufficient anymore.
We need to get rid of the monopoly. Monopolies don't work.
Steyer would like to see better oversight and introduce more competition to the market so people could choose who their provider is.
Because if that happens, then all of a sudden, all the new technologies that are available right now will be adopted by somebody. And that will drive down the cost at which they can deliver electricity, which means everybody else is going to have to compete to drive down the cost of electricity.
To get a better understanding of what is possible, we went to Professor Severin Bornstein, the faculty director of UC Berkeley's Energy Institute at Haas.
PG&E is a gigantic service territory. In fact, it's about the same size as all of New England.
He says a divorce is logistically possible. However,
it would take many, many years, and it would be extremely expensive. PG&E would fight it, as they did with the creation of SMUD, the Sacramento Municipal Utility. That litigation went on for nearly a decade.
And even if that happens, a complete separation from PG&E is not likely.
Because PG&E would completely surround it, and they would be constantly buying and selling power to one another.
Depending on who you ask, though, the trouble could be worth it.
If they really think that the corporation, the investor-owned utility, is so incompetent and so badly run that it can't be salvaged, then I think it does make sense to at least put pressure on them.
We requested an on-camera interview with PG&E. They provided a statement instead. A spokesperson told us, PG&E has served customers in San Francisco for more than 100 years, and we remain committed to serving San Franciscans for years to come.
PG&E also tells us that it has invested $3 billion in San Francisco's electric grid over the last 20 years, and service in the city is almost twice as reliable as the national average.
And coming up, frustration for drivers in the East Bay, why Oakland is saying goodbye to free parking on Sundays. That's next. And welcome back. Oakland has ended free parking on Sundays. It's a move the city says will help make sure that high-demand areas have available spaces. Today, Oakland started enforcing metered parking citywide with a 30-day grace period. Meters will charge from noon until 6 p.m., and not everybody's happy about it.
I feel like it should be just Sunday or both days, actually, Saturday and Sunday. Just cut out the meters without paying. Just let the people have a little time with their families to go out and eat.
For the 30-day grace period, car owners will get a warning by mail for the first violation. Repeated violations will get you a citation. The additional revenue they're raising from this, you'd think can't be much, but the parking meter changes will go toward the city's general fund, which is facing a major deficit. Andrea?
Well, first alert weather now. Skiers are loving this, but snowfall in the Sierra is creating a mess on the roads. Caltrans says there's been multiple spinouts. And this is a look at Highway 267 over Brockway Summit earlier today. Several cars spun out there, stopping traffic in the area for a few hours. Chain control is currently in effect. And there's also been multiple spinouts on Interstate 80 at Donner Summit. CHP says westbound traffic is being turned around at the Nevada state line, and you can see the traffic backing up there. There's no estimated time of reopening right now. And with that, let's send it over to meteorologist Darren Peck.
Oh, that is the rain we had this morning. Did you notice the rain was better for the morning in the first part of the day than it is now? Things have kind of quieted down for us now. But look what happens when we walk east. You see the showers are a little bit more impressive up here. And just as they go off the screen, we change our perspective just for a second, since Andrea was just showing us all that beautiful new snow and the headaches it's causing on the drive. Look at the Sierra. So if we reorient ourselves, we walked across the state to get over there. That's the last 3 hours of radar. That is a beautiful carpet of blue on there. This is maximum snow deposition time from these storms. We've gotten into the cold core of it. Snow levels down to around 5,000 feet. This is good. Not fun to be in a car right now, but that's great for resorts and for snowpack, where we're going to store the water as we head into summer. All right, let's go to the future now. So let's come out this way. Let's take a look out off the coast, and what we're going to do is we're going to switch from looking at live radar, and for a time it's going to look identical because the rain's all up there to the north, but we are tracking ahead into tonight and tomorrow, and you can see the better rain that's going to show up tomorrow morning. We're going to look at this again. I'm going to slow it down, and you'll see what it looks like for your part of the bay, but what I also want you to see is all this out here for the second half of the day. So Monday, second half of the day, we may miss the majority of the rain this system has to throw us. It's all sitting out here, and it kind of got pulled off to the south before it could get us. But we definitely did see rain, widespread rain through the morning on that. I think we need a closer inspection on how that's going to go to give you a better idea on what your Monday's going to look like. So let's get into the detail on this. This is the high-resolution forecast showing us the showers clearing out for tonight. Here comes tomorrow morning stuff. So that's dark and early. We're still before sunrise. Raining pretty heavy in the North Bay, and we've got a good little cell here that'll come across the Golden Gate. Spotty, on again, off again, hit and miss. But when some of these come through, they can have some good intensity with them early in the morning. This is still before sunrise here. Still kind of dark outside. Here come a few more cells. Now we've gotten towards sunrise, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, some of the better rain for the North Bay. This is probably the most widespread steady rain of the day from the Bay Area perspective. It'll be this line coming into the North Bay right through the early afternoon. And even though there's still some good rain here, remember what we saw on the virtual set? How second half of the day, a lot of this rain was going to get pulled away. When we play this forward, we kind of don't get that. It just falls apart off the coast. We now know it's raining better to the south, like down off the coast of Big Sur, but it almost seems like the rain just kind of parts. We're done. Maybe we get a few showers going into very early Tuesday, but I doubt it. So it's going to be tomorrow, and then we're going to be finished with this. We'll get some rain in the morning, spotty, brief intensity, better rain in the afternoon in the North Bay. Look at the totals for the North Bay tomorrow. Everybody else still gets a decent amount of rain, and then we're done. And by the way, we will still continue to put down some more snow from that system tomorrow, but like the last 3 hours and about the next hour and a half is really some of the best snow-producing time up in the Sierra. And considering what the state of our snowpack was at the start of this season, it's got to make you feel good. We're getting back up to average with that for where we should be for this time of year. That's always got to feel good in this state, considering what fire seasons have been like. All right, there's tomorrow's first alert status for that rain, and that's the last one. No more rain in the 7-day forecast after that.
From CBS News Bay Area, this is the Evening Edition.
Welcome back on this Sunday night. Former president of Venezuela, Nicolas Maduro, and his wife will face a federal judge in a New York courtroom tomorrow.
This as the Trump administration continues to reiterate that they will run Venezuela in the interim. Natalie Brand has the latest.
Nicolas Maduro and his wife remain at Brooklyn's Metropolitan Detention Center Sunday ahead of their expected arraignment Monday on drug trafficking and narco-terrorism-related charges. New satellite images show damage in Caracas, Venezuela, following the U.S. military operation overnight Saturday, which targeted military facilities and captured Maduro. In a televised statement, Venezuela's defense minister said a large part of Maduro's security team was killed in the raid, with the country's vice president sworn in as the interim leader.
But we are going to judge moving forward. We're going to judge everything by what they do, and we're going to see what they do.
Well, President Trump said on Saturday the U.S. would temporarily run Venezuela. Secretary of State Marco Rubio on Sunday didn't offer many more details of how exactly that will work.
So just to be clear, there is no plan for U.S. occupation of this country of nearly 30 million people.
Well, I think, first of all, the president always retains optionality on anything and on all of these matters. He certainly has the ability and the right under the Constitution of the United States to act against imminent and urgent threats against the country.
The administration also says it will be focused on rebuilding oil infrastructure in Venezuela. Democrats accuse the administration of prioritizing that over stability and keeping lawmakers in the dark.
Let's let my Republican colleagues enjoy their day of euphoria, but they're going to wake up tomorrow morning knowing, my God, there is no plan here any more than there was in Afghanistan, Iraq, or in Libya.
In Venezuela, there are reports of a tense calm over the country, with people lining up outside of stores this weekend to stock up on supplies amid the uncertainty.
Big question in all of this is whether the intervention is legal. At least that's one of the big questions. Here's the director of Stanford's International Law Program, Ellen Weiner, answering that question for us last night.
The use of force in international relations by one state against another is prohibited. There are only two exceptions. If a state is the victim of an armed attack, it can use force in self-defense. That clearly was not the case here. Venezuela hasn't attacked the United States. And the other exception is if the UN Security Council authorizes the use of force, which hasn't happened here.
Rory Little of UC Law, San Francisco. Rory is a professor of law and formerly served in the Justice Department. Appreciate you joining us tonight. Do you agree that under international law that this operation was and is illegal?
Well, it certainly violates the UN Charter and the provisions that the prior professor mentioned. The big question is, does it violate U.S. law? Does it violate the U.S. Constitution? Because we often are out of step, let's say, with international law, which is a pretty amorphous body of law to begin with. There are domestic laws that say that the president has to notify Congress, has to report to Congress. There's a Constitution which says it is Congress's job to declare war, not the president. And then there's historical precedent, which tends to support executive action, such as the invasion of Panama in 1989 and the capture of the former leader of Panama, Noriega, at that time. So there'll be fights about this, and most of it will happen, I think, on the floor of Congress rather than in the courts of law.
I'm wondering to what extent anyone, any leader of the country, can be held accountable if I break the law, if I run a red light, I'm getting a citation, I'm getting pulled over, there's a penalty. What's the penalty for breaking international law?
Yeah. You are asking good questions. And we all have the same questions. The Supreme Court decided 2 years ago that the president is absolutely immune from criminal prosecution for official acts. Now, whether invading another country without congressional authorization or even notice is an official act, well, that remains to be seen. What about the people that are supervising this? Rubio and other people, the Attorney General. It's a very mushy situation. I'm sorry to say, it's not very clear. We don't even know what the government is doing. We don't even know if there are troops on the ground. Are there going to be troops on the ground? Is it just an arrest, or is it more than an arrest? The president seemed to say that it was, in which case the legality is even more questionable.
Just given precedents, beginning with the CIA's action in Persia back in 1953, when we ousted Mossadegh right through Cuba, when we attempted with the Bay of Pigs to oust Castro, to this present operation, as you already mentioned, Panama, there was Grenada. Do you see how this might play itself out in terms of what's next?
Well, history gets written, in reverse, right? We're living it right now. So there's no way to tell exactly how this is going to go. But the United States government does not have a great record of respecting the sovereignty of foreign countries when they think those countries are threatening our interests, whatever our interests might be. The American people tend to support what the president does. We'll see whether they come around on this one. Excuse me, we've got bad records in Afghanistan in the long run. We had to withdraw from there. It was a shame. And President Trump was a critic of that. We have bad records in other countries where we have done this sort of thing. So we'll see. And your guess is as good as mine as to exactly how it's going to go. Hopefully, President Trump will be reined in a little bit by Congress. And we'll see what they're able to do in the next 48 hours. There's going to be a hearing tomorrow, at least one hearing, maybe more, as well as a meeting of the National Security Council in the White House. So there's a lot that we just have to wait and see.
UC Law SF Professor Rory Little. Professor Little, thanks so much for your time tonight. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you, Brian.
Coming up, another knot to untangle for commercial crabbers in the Bay Area. More on the drama over the Dungeness crab season ahead of opening day tomorrow. That's coming up.
Will locals finally get a chance to enjoy Dungeness crab? Maybe. The commercial season begins tomorrow, but a price dispute and bad weather aren't making things easy. Don Lin has more.
All these crab boats were supposed to head out on Friday morning to drop their pots. That would have allowed fishermen to retrieve them and sell the crabs on Monday when the commercial season opens. But everything is being pushed back due to high winds and a pricing holdout. It smells even better than it looks, but if you want local Dungeness crab, you'll have to wait a few more days.
We're not going to drop until, at the earliest, probably Monday or Tuesday.
On Friday, commercial fisherman Jonathan Ten loaded up 2 boats full of crab pots at the wharf. High winds and big ocean waves just off the San Francisco coast made it too dangerous to make the drops.
We've waited for like a month and a half. What's a couple more days, you know? At least if the weather gets nice, we can go out there and do it safely. We don't have to risk our lives doing a job that's really, really dangerous.
On top of the bad weather, Bay Area fishermen are holding out for higher pricing. John Barnett is the president of the San Francisco Crab Boat Owners Association. He says fishermen want 50 to 75 cents more per pound from fish markets and wholesale buyers. Until both sides can agree on a price, the boats will stay put.
It's not expected to be a tremendous amount of crabs out here, so we want to get the most money that we can for them and make this a season, especially without our salmon seasons the last few years.
Fishermen like Jonathan say they're barely surviving, with the season once again delayed from November to January due to whale migration.
Not starting in November is really hard for us because we miss out on the holiday price with Thanksgiving and Christmas. And also the gear reduction's hard too. We're going on 60% stack.
This season, the state is also limiting fishermen to 60% of their allowable pots.
So we have a 350 pot permit, so 60% of that is 210.
Lower price will mean pass it along to the consumer.
Right now, the crabs being sold at markets and restaurants are coming from Oregon and Washington. Bob Partwright runs 5 restaurants at Pier 39, including Crab House.
When it is local Dungeness crab season and we can offer local crabs, we tend to see an increase in crab sales.
Jonathan hopes to deliver fresh local Dungeness crabs soon, but says all the conditions have to be right.
This is the first year we bought the boat, and we're excited to get out and start hauling in some crab.
Both sides are hoping to settle the pricing dispute by Monday. If that happens and the weather cooperates, the fishermen would head out on Tuesday and could return as early as Wednesday. Some of them will sell directly off of their boats at Pier 45 and Pier 47. No middleman.
All right, coming up in the First Alert forecast, we will track tomorrow's rain, and I'll get you through Monday. But we're then going to enter a period where it is not going to rain for a while. So we'll start looking out into the Pacific and start talking about the pattern that will set up shop for us by the middle of this week. We'll look at that after we talk about tomorrow's rain. There's still a decent amount of rain coming. See you with both of these elements of the story after the break. So we do have a little more rain possible tonight. You can see it on the virtual set now. This is the last 3 hours of radar out here. Every once in a while you get a little drop of rain, but none of these are really significant. It's tomorrow morning when this is going to get better. So let's go find tomorrow's rain and get an idea of how it's going to come together. When you look off the coast, again, this is live radar. I'm going to put the Futurecast on here. So you'll see the showers begin up in the north like they are. And interestingly, it's the rain that's coming in by the time we get to tomorrow morning that probably does the best, and that's North Bay rain. When we get to the second half of the day, there's going to be this big slug of moisture that kind of wants to go too far south. All that stuff out there, which would have given us good rain, if the system didn't want to pull it to the south, and it just kind of sits out there aimlessly over the ocean. So that was a missed rain opportunity for us, but it doesn't mean we're not still getting good rain through at least the first half of the day tomorrow, and scattered showers that will stay with us at least through a good part of the afternoon. Just another way to look at it with perhaps a little more detail so you can really spotlight your part of the bay and put some time on it and stop it at important moments like that one. That's tomorrow morning, 4 a.m. Some of the heavier isolated cells start moving into the North Bay. We'll see more of that start to come in across the rest of the bay as we go through the late morning. But then when we get towards this point in the early afternoon, there's going to be a focus on the North Bay as this system it's orienting itself in a way that it directs the rain to the North Bay before it leaves. Watch, you'll see what I mean. The North Bay gets good rain in the early afternoon, and then the whole system just kind of pulls away, and we really don't get much more from that. Isolated showers in the morning, maybe some with localized intensity, and then a little more of a focus in the North Bay once we get into the afternoon, which is why those totals start looking better. That's just for tomorrow. So you could see as much as 2 inches of rain in Santa Rosa. This is still going to be a roadway flooding concern tomorrow, and that could happen anywhere through the county. This is not dependent on king tides. This is totally different. So the low-lying intersections, clogged gutters, rural roadways, anything near small streams and creeks would be the concern there. And we'll keep putting some snow down in the Sierra, by the way, over the next few days, really about the next day and a half. But the bulk of the snow, that's falling now. All right, that is the rain story. We're going to be done by the time we get to Tuesday. And then once we get past that, unfortunately, we got to bring back our old friend, the cylinder of high pressure. This is our center of high pressure that's going to set up off the West Coast. It will be larger than just that location. It will have a dominating influence out in the Pacific. This is just a really cool way to visualize how this is the entire column of the atmosphere and how these things act as a block. Watch that rain right there. Looks how it bends around the center of high pressure. This is why the storm track so often looks like that here in California, where you will see the rain do like a big arcing ridge over here. It's classic. I mean, you could draw this in again and again when we get into this pattern. Those are the periods where we get no rain. High pressure is going to set up by about Wednesday for us. And there is no more rain in the forecast from that point on. I don't think this is going to be a long-term shop. I think that this will probably relent quicker than it has in the past. There's reason to be hopeful that once we get past like day 8 or 9, that we'll see that center of high pressure go away. But it certainly is going to have a dominating influence starting right about here. And look at all the sunny days there. We'll probably get back into a morning fog scenario. We'll watch for the Thule fog to develop. We know how vulnerable we've been to that this winter. And we're already seeing signs of that coming back really as early as tomorrow in the Central Valley. So sunny in the afternoon, sure, maybe a bit hazy. And progressively, perhaps more Thule fog-ish as we get there. But let's give that a little more time to play out. Daytime highs will stay pretty much average for this time of year, and no more rain after Monday. All right, guys, back to you.
Not crazy about the fog, but I'll take a few sunny days. That's okay. Thanks, Darren. Coming up, a rough start to the new year for one family after a tree nearly split their home in half. A story of both good and bad luck. Coming up. And welcome back as the Bay Area braces for another few little rain showers moving through. One North Bay family is still recovering after a redwood tree fell on their Guerneville home.
It happened on Christmas Eve and nearly crushed a 3-year-old child. Kenny Choi has their story and how neighbors are lending a hand.
This is all that's left of the Montano family home after a massive redwood tree fell in the early morning hours of Christmas Eve.
So we're just hoping and praying that the insurance help us like they said they were going to do.
Cristobal Montano came back to survey the damage and asked us not to show his face.
This is the shed area, that's where the tree destroyed that, and then this is the kitchen. It split right through our kitchen.
He says it narrowly missed his 3-year-old daughter's bed. After more than a week, Montano's family is still waiting for insurance officials to inspect their Guerneville home.
We're just struggling right now because we're a big family and we're staying at hotels, you know, so it's like, it's pretty rough, you know.
They placed a tarp atop their roof, hoping to salvage any items from more water damage before the next storm arrives. Nearby neighbors have been wary.
It was raining and then there started being wind gusts, and the remaining trees that were unstable started swaying, and I couldn't get my shoes on fast enough.
We're super grateful that we're all alive, you know. That's the thing that is the most important.
Montano's father's a handyman who's been working in the area for 30 years and finally saved enough to buy this home. Dave Bischow is a family friend who helped set up an online fundraising effort.
This is the very least we can do, is to take care of them. This house they just bought, and now a tree fell on it, and it almost took out a child.
Definitely helps us keep our head up, you know, to know that there's people out there who actually care and that are good people out there, you know.
As Montano's multi-generational family of 7 continues to stay at a motel in 2 rooms, they're waiting for insurance to provide a more permanent place as the long process to rebuild begins.
And so far, the family has raised nearly $14,000 online to rebuild.
But a clear example of how powerful and unexpected the stretch of weather we've had can be. So how powerful, and I know it won't be unexpected.
Right, yeah. Nothing crazy tomorrow, but rain nonetheless. If we take a look out here, this is what's going on now, but it's tomorrow, and as we play this forward, what you see is this band of rain that approaches primarily in the morning. So this is just a review of what we had. So tomorrow morning, plan on like isolated pockets of rain. Some of it will come in brief intensity. And then I think by the afternoon, most of us probably get a break, but we'll see some of the steadier rain stay in the North Bay. And then by the time we get to tomorrow night, we're done. Like by Tuesday, it's over.
Okay, so Tuesday we get some sunshine.
Yeah. Yeah, and really the rest of the 7 day after that, too.
Okay.
So when do temperatures start warming up as well?
April, May.
To the level you're looking for, Brian's answer applies.
That's going to do it for us for now. We'll be back at 11 o'clock tonight with all the latest. For now, thanks for watching.